Are you pleased with this report?
Yeah, Romaine, I mean, obviously a big beat in terms of the number of subscribers on the fourth quarter, over 13 million. Coming into this quarter, Scarlett, Romaine, we know that Netflix had announced about a week or two ago that they had ad tier subscriber or monthly average users greater than 23 million. So I think that kind of gives us an idea going into this quarter that we might get a pretty good beat. We have to bear in mind about 30% of all the new subscribers are ad-based. It's not a huge portion of the 260 million people that are subscribing, but of the new subscribers that are coming on. So that announcement coming out really edged up the consensus estimate in terms of expectations for number of users on this fourth quarter. I think it was 8.9. You said it was 9 million. It kept moving up as we got closer to the bell.
I was just doing them a favor and rounding up here. But even when you go down, I mean, through the regions here, we talk about in Europe and Middle East, that was up 58%. Latin America, 34%. And even in Asia Pacific region, that was up 62% on a year-over-year basis. And all of those were well above, in some cases, what the street was looking for. Dan, this is now a growth story once again. I felt like a couple of quarters ago, we were basically told that growth is over for this company. They're too big.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, Romaine, I mean, the two key growth areas that obviously is movement toward the ad tier. We know they do basic with ads. I think it's $6.99 a month. It's very inexpensive. And then the paired share or the paid sharing, which you talked about earlier with Tim in terms of password sharing. Those are really the growth drivers going forward. That number, Romaine, that you gave on APAC, Asia Pacific, that was a huge beat in terms of number of subscribers compared to what the street was looking for. So it's interesting to see them get kind of reinvigorated with growth, right? Scarlett and Romaine, after we had that big blip during COVID, then they just really dropped off the roof. And now we're getting growth again, and it's being driven by some different fundamentals than we had in the past.
Yeah, just over the past 6 months, when you combine what happened in the previous quarter, Netflix added about 21 million subscribers. That is kind of unreal when you don't have a pandemic locking people in. What do you think is going on? How come people got it wrong by so much?
Well, again, Scarlett, I think it just goes back to these new content that you were talking about. I mean, you were arguing whether wrestling is a sport or not. But they are getting into gaming. They've gotten into a lot of other different things. I mean, they did, what, 260 million total subscribers, accumulated versus 256. I think that was the estimate. So they just continue to add on, and it's kind of a different model than we've had in the past. It's more cash flow based. Romaine, you were mentioning earlier about their streaming content obligation in terms of it actually kind of dropping down. So costs seem to be coming back a little bit. I think the estimate is roughly around 20 billion. I think you mentioned they did 17 billion. So it's just a different story than it was 5 years ago when they just threw money at every script that came in and they produced it and they built it out and had all these series. It's becoming a different animal.
It's becoming a different animal, and I think it's safe to say that Netflix has won the streaming war. My question is its lead insurmountable, or do we need to add "for now" to the end of that statement?
Well, I read that the average user has 4 streaming channels in their house. I think I have 2 or 3, and everybody has Netflix. So then it's kind of a battle between these other streamers, Paramount Plus, and all the other ones, Apple Prime, so forth, who can kind of get that remaining pie. But Netflix still kind of leads the pack. And you brought up a good point earlier, Scarlett, when you talked about how a lot of them led with advertising. Giving subscriptions, and now they're pulling back and trying to kind of weed that off, where Netflix was always no advertising, and now they've had this different tier. So it's kind of a different approach.